Welcome back to Yankee Chronicle. I'm your host, Elizabeth DeRazio, coming to you from MJ Harrington Jewelers in Newport, your new one-stop gift center. Bonsai is the Japanese art of growing and shaping miniature trees in containers. Our very own cultivator of this practice is Rick Stockwell in Sutton. We're going to start a 3-week introduction to his work. So tell us, how did you get started, Rick?
Well, it came from Japan over 1,000 years ago, a country where they appreciate simplicity, whether it's in their plants, their gardens, their art form, their calligraphy. It's simplicity as compared to American art is often loaded with color and detail. American gardens are kind of like that way. I've always been fascinated by Japanese art. When I was studying landscape architecture, there was a story in a book that is considered the best landscape book about a monk who bought this beautiful piece of land on an ocean point, forested, and he took 10 years to develop it. And everyone was excited to go there and see what he had done with it. And they were kind of dismayed to get there and find that they walked through these trails going up to the top of the hill, and it was all forested. They couldn't see the beautiful ocean view. But when they got up to the tea house, they bent down and took some of the water and looked to the side, and there was a little view of the ocean there, just a little bit. Then they went in for the tea ceremony and sat down and had the tea ceremony. And then after that, they opened up all the blinds, and there was a 360-degree view of the ocean. So they really know how to tell a story, to make an impact. And bonsai is developed, it came from a country where there's not a lot of land. And so often people had a tiny area for a garden, so they made the best of that. They couldn't put in big trees, so they used tiny trees. So it's a hobby that combines horticultural and aesthetics. It's probably the most difficult thing to do horticulturally in terms of keeping a tree alive for hundreds of years and healthy. I've killed my share of trees along the way and learned, but it's also aesthetics. It's a combination of horticultural and aesthetics. When I became a landscaper, and I wanted one of every plant. When I was in school, I worked in a nursery part-time, and I bought one of every annual, one of every perennial, a lot of shrubs, but I couldn't buy one of every tree. So I was intrigued, and trees were always my favorite. And my mother-in-law at the time took me to Longwood Gardens in New Jersey, and I saw bonsai, and that was it for me. So this is an example of the kind of outdoor living spaces I would build with multi-levels and transitions from the 3 walls and a floor to of wood down to masonry and cement blocks, and transition to a pond area or landscape area of interest. And this is another room surrounded by plants and trees to create those walls. And so as a landscaper, I didn't just plant gardens and plants. I tried to create outdoor spaces like we have indoors, whether it's a garden where you have walls like this. You've got physical walls. You've also got walls of plant material and trees. And I built a lot of decks, multi-level decks that you would transition from your house where you had 4 walls, a floor, and a ceiling to maybe a deck or a patio with a floor, maybe a couple walls behind you, and maybe a ceiling of an overhead tree branching. And then you'd transition from maybe wood decks to stone patios to make that transition from a house to nature. People live in New England for a reason, because it's so beautiful. But oftentimes they build the house on a tiny little deck without a lot of consideration for the outside. So that was what I did. I just thought, here's a combination of horticulture and art. But it took me many years before I had the time. I was working full time before I had the time to really spend on the refinement of trees.
Thank you, Rick. Next week, he'll introduce us to starting bonsai and the dwarfing process. When we return, we'll visit with Wally Borgen and hear about the next skit production. But first, please keep watching your Yankee Chronicle as we hear from another of the fine businesses that join MJ Harrington in supporting your show. Stay with us.
This program is supported by the Innertown Record, your weekly hometown community newspaper covering the Kearsarge-Sunapee Sunshine region of New Hampshire. The Innertown Record.